You're welcome back. Now, the Student Loan Trust Fund is having serious challenges as a result of students who have taken loans from the scheme and refuse to pay them back. Over 55,000 people owe the trust fund 75 million Ghana cedis, which the managers say is crippling the fund. Now, fund managers resorted to publishing the names of defaulters in the media as part of the numerous ways to get them to honor their obligations. How can this phenomenon be corrected, and what are the fund managers doing to address it? We're joined in the studio by George Ferguson Lane. He's the head of public relations, Student Loan Trust Fund. Mr. Lane, it's a pleasure to speak to you.
Same here, Kojo.
This looks like a huge problem, but just publishing their names, though, I mean, nobody ever got their money back that way, did they?
So let me start from the beginning. What we do is to, as you know, our mandate is to give loans to students to help them complete their tertiary education, help them finance their tertiary education.
Yeah.
And then once they complete, it's our duty to recover those loans. After your education, you have a 2-year moratorium. You're not expected to start paying immediately.
Right.
So you have 2 years. We take it that the first year after school, you're doing your national service, maybe another year looking for a job, so you have 2 years. So what that means is that at every point in time, not everybody that owes us is due to pay.
Right.
So every year, a number of students or a number of former students, a number of borrowers become due to pay. What you said in your introduction is correct, that for 2019, we have 55,000 due borrowers.
Okay.
What is happening with that 55,000 is that 35,000, a little over 35,000 of them have either finished paying or are paying.
Right, okay.
Which leaves us with a little under 20,000,
okay,
yeah, who are not meeting their obligations to the fund. And it's not just publishing names. We have a series of actions we can take, which is stipulated by the law that set us up, and we've been doing that. I mean, we engage with employers, because employers are supposed to ensure that borrowers who owe us, they deduct at source. So we have quite good cooperation with some employers, not all of them, unfortunately. We've been engaging with guarantors too, because you need somebody to guarantee the loan for you when you're taking it. So we engage with guarantors as well. We engage with the borrowers themselves through various means: letters, phone calls, text messages. These publications that started last week. So last week we published a number of borrowers, their faces and the institutions they attended. This is a precursor to the next move, which is prosecution.
Right.
I must say that after the publication in the Daily Graphic last week, we actually intended to do a series of them, but after the publication last week, we've been deluged with calls from borrowers, some whose names and faces were published, others who we have not published yet, but
they don't want
to face that. So it's given us pause for reflection. I mean, we're thinking of perhaps holding on subsequent publications. We have one scheduled for tomorrow, which will go ahead. But after that, I think we'll pause for a bit, give some kind of amnesty, allow those who owe and have the goodwill to make do their obligations, to come forward and do so. So that is where we are as we speak.
Hey, can I ask something? I mean, why pause if it's working? So why not simply remove the names of those who have contacted you and with whom you've come to some arrangement, and then publish the rest? If it works.
It's working. So we can't deal with everybody at the same time. We're having to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. There are some who want to renegotiate. We are not ready to renegotiate with because it's just been too long and they've made no effort whatsoever. From experience, we know what people like that do is they'll probably pay for 2 months and then
just stop.
They stop. Others have given us compelling reasons why they have not completed payments, and for those we are sitting with them and we're restructuring payments. So we just want to give it a human face, see those.
So I guess what I'm saying is for those in particular who have contacted you, whether they have a good reason or not, I mean, the fact that they've opened a dialogue with you, it would make sense for you to not go ahead and publish.
Absolutely.
But then for those who haven't,
no, for that we're going ahead. We're going ahead with publication. So there's a much more comprehensive publication on our website.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if you're paying for publication, that's some cost that you may not. I mean, we're already having to watch the pennies, so we can't put everybody in the national media. But there's a fuller list on our website, and
although that's only going to be seen by those who visit your website.
That's going to be seen by those who visit our website and our social media pages.
Right.
But with the with the prosecutions as well, we're going ahead. We're going to prosecute people.
Now, you talked about the option of actually retrieving the money from the guarantors, right? At what point do you do that? And should that not be sort of the ultimate solution? Would that not basically work for everyone? You have, what, 3 guarantors? Or is it 2?
So what has happened with, this is a business, but it's also a social intervention program of sorts. Previously, we had 3 guarantors. And each of them had to be a SNET beneficiary.
Right.
Now, what we realize is that with the poorest of the poor, sometimes finding even a single guarantor is a problem. There are people that don't know anybody that works in the formal sector. Right. So what we did was to diversify the guarantorship. So now you can either have one SNET guarantor, or you could have your church guarantee for you. You could have your local assembly guarantee for you. You could have a corporate body guarantee for you. So that is...
But all these guarantors, their role is to be the backup.
That is
for
correct.
Paying if you don't pay.
That is
Am
correct.
I right? So
that
whether it's your church, your district assembly, they're supposed to cough up if you don't pay.
Yes, and some of them are coughing up, but it's the responsibility is ultimately on the borrower. So we use that as a last resort.
When you start squeezing the guarantors, do they not normally
and sometimes they produce the people. Very often they produce
and then put pressure on them to pay.
Put pressure on them to pay.
So I would have thought that would be a perfect system. I would have thought you would get 90% of the people who owe you to pay through that process.
Our repayment rate has improved over the past 2 years. I mean, we've moved from the mid-30s to about 61% recovery rates now, and it's because of a number of strategies we've put in place. I mean, we're doing a lot more public engagement. We're now a lot more engaged with borrowers as well. We're reminding them, writing to them as soon as they become due. We've even made repayment more convenient. So at first you'd have to walk into certain designated banks to pay. We've made it more convenient. You can now pay with mobile money. You can pay with your Visa or MasterCard, debit or credit card, which has also opened the way for Ghanaians living abroad who owe us to pay back, because prior to that it was difficult for somebody living outside to pay. But now with these measures, we're getting more payments from Ghanaians living abroad. We have designated months every year for public education on repayment. We hold loan clinics in various areas. And even at the point of disbursement now, we start educating students about how and when they should start thinking of repayment. So you even have people who are doing their national service. As I said, we give you a 2-year moratorium, but because of the education that's taking place, even at the point of disbursement now, you have people using their national service allowances to start servicing their debts even before they are due. So we've made significant progress, but we can't allow a few people to hold us to ransom, because at the end of the day, it's only fair that if you have been given the opportunity to have financial assistance for a tertiary education, you pay back so that a new generation of students can also benefit.
Let me ask you this, and please, feel at liberty to be as honest as you can. Do you think the trust fund is being a little too lenient on these people, particularly the guarantors? I mean, from your narration, it appears that when the source of guarantor changed, it somehow affected the ability to collect. In the past, if it was a SNP beneficiary, simple, job done. Their money is with you anyway, so you just deduct it from there. Somehow, opening up the net so that guarantors who are not SNP beneficiaries can also guarantee these loans, that has made it more difficult for you to actually put your foot down and say, you owe us, pay up.
The figures don't support that. I think the reason you would have more defaulters is that, I mean, as the university population increases,
right,
the number of students, the number of subscribers increases. So we're dealing with bigger numbers now. That is more. But I mean, analysis of how guarantors influence payments, repayments, doesn't show that it has anything to do with the diversification.
That's fair. All right. So look, prosecuting under 20,000 people, that's a lot of money. It'll cost the trust fund quite a lot of money to do that. So you're hoping that won't be, what you have to do. So what's plan B, plan C before you get to the point of having to take all these people to court?
Yes. I mean, already these publications are showing as results. We've seen, as I said, we've had an influx of calls and people coming to the office, and so I do not see a situation where we would have to prosecute all these people. Right. I mean, we'll probably be left with a few hardcore guys to deal with, but I think generally most of our borrowers are eager to do what they need to do. So I'm encouraged by our efforts so far.
All right. Well, we certainly hope that you're able to retrieve them. There are many, many young people who depend on the facility that you extend, and we hope you're able to continue doing that. George Ferguson Lane is the head of public relations at the Students' Loan Trust Fund.